Mundane astrology is the study of worldly events, in contrast to natal astrology, which focuses on the individual. Mundane astrology is typically used in interpretations and forecasts involving politics, the stock market, weather, and disasters. This form of astrology uses charts based upon the time, date, and place of events, such as an earthquake, a new country being formed, or a new company being publicly traded. Mundane interpretations are based on an analysis of equinoxes, solstices, new and full moons, eclipses, planetary conjunctions, and similar celestial phenomena. The Sibly Chart is the most commonly used horoscope for the United States. The birth of our nation was defined by the signing of the Declaration of Independence. The first astrologer to publish the U.S. natal chart was Ebenezer Sibly, an 18th century British astrologer. The signing of the Declaration of Independence was at 5:10 p.m. local mean time in the city of Philadelphia on July 4, 1776. The slowly moving outer planets remain in a sign much longer than the inner planets. We're talking years instead of days or months. This makes their impact much greater. For the 2022 forecast, we'll be focusing on the transiting outer planets, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, and the aspects they will be making with planets in the U.S. natal chart. This chart lists all the major aspects between the U.S. natal chart and the outer planets for 2022. You'll notice some of these aspects are duplicates, which are due to planetary retrogrades. Although all aspects are important, for brevity, we'll be focusing on the more significant ones for this year. This bi-wheel shows the U.S. natal chart in the center, with a transit chart of interest wrapped around it. The transit chart is showing the U.S. natal Mars at 21 degrees Gemini, squaring the transiting Neptune on January 30th. The U.S. natal Mars is actually squaring both the transiting Neptune as well as the U.S. natal Neptune. Neptune rules the 12th house, which deals with hospitals, mental health, and health issues in general. Since we're dealing with the health of the U.S. population, plagues and pandemics would also be included. Mars is a planet of action, and it is another planet often looked at when dealing with health issues. So a square between the two planets, and in this case a square between Mars and the Neptune opposition, is of interest. This transit will manifest in one of two ways. Either Omicron will burn out, will achieve herd immunity, and effectively will be done with the pandemic, or a new virus will be activated. I know we'd all like to see the coronavirus behind us, so I've been looking for independent signs to indicate what the outcome might be. The first thing I read was that the scientists were saying that since Omicron would transmit rapidly and is far less deadly, it will be the equivalent of a natural vaccine against future strains. This was corroborated again yesterday by a Yale epidemiologist, Dr. Harvey Risch, whom I've been following since May 2020. Another independent data point was from a Business Channel interview I saw last week with a man who worked on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. I was surprised to hear that those investors believe this pandemic will be done within a few weeks to a month. So follow the money. There are some very strong significators that we could be seeing the end of the pandemic. On the other hand, there are reports that China is again locking their people down due to an outbreak of yet another disease. This one has people bleeding out of their eyes. During the interview with Dr. Risch yesterday, he commented that it sounded more like a seasonal outbreak of Ebola rather than another coronavirus variant. Ebola is transmitted by rats, not airborne like the coronavirus. But he cautioned that China has not been sharing any information, and that everything was very speculative at this point. With the upcoming Olympic Games scheduled, I am concerned that China will do anything to keep the world attending. It's a matter of money and saving face. I do hope someone in the government is keeping tabs on this. After all, the 2019 Military World Games, commonly known as Wuhan 2019, was held from October 18th through the 27th in 2019 in Wuhan. Based upon the new information disclosed this week, the timeline for the initial lab leak may be moved from September 2019 to August 2019 now. So another worldwide game event like the Olympics could be a disastrous affair depending upon what is actually going on in China. It is important that you understand the cosmic significance of the next two transits. You need to understand also the role that America plays in the destiny of the world. It is not just hubris on our part. It is not just patriotism. It is the divine plan. The Pluto returns will occur in 2022 on February 20th, July 11th, and December 28th. One final near miss by 21 minutes will occur on October 15th in 2023, before Pluto finally moves on. It will be hundreds of years before the next occurrence. Since Pluto returns take 247 odd years to occur, this is the first Pluto return that the United States has ever experienced. In a mundane chart, Pluto signifies the power of the masses. It has to do with regeneration and transformation. The higher vibration of Pluto will show areas where improvements and better organization can come about. The lower vibration can indicate social upheavals, power struggles, terrorism, or corruption. The U.S. natal Pluto at 27 degrees Capricorn will experience this historic conjunction when transiting Pluto directly hits 27 degrees Capricorn. This means Pluto will be returning to the exact same position of the zodiac where it was on July 4th, 1776. This bi-wheel shows the U.S. natal chart in the center, with the transiting Pluto chart on the outside. The U.S. natal Pluto is in the second house. The second house deals with finances, the assets of the people, banking systems, capitalism, cash flow, costs, currency, price stability, the U.S. Treasury, wages, and wealth. There is a growing sentiment amongst the people that much of the troubles we are encountering today deal with the planned redistribution of wealth. How much of the behaviors associated with big tech, big pharma, the World Economic Forum, China, and George Soros are really about taking control of the people's money? The Pluto return is going to bring about a revolution of sorts. It seems that whatever direction was set for this country back on July 4th, 1776, is going to be revisited. When the country was founded, Americans were rebelling against taxation without representation. It was all about money and control then, and it's all about money and control now. As it is in favorable aspect, the cosmic conjunction of natal Pluto with transiting Pluto offers us the unique opportunity to fight to get our country back. This war will be fought using information more than guns, and America's women will be a major factor in our success. You have more power than you know. One interesting item, Truth Social, former President Trump's new media platform, is launching on February 21st, President's Day, and the day after the first exact Pluto return. This is a direct salvo against big tech's assault on our First Amendment right to free speech. Another historic opposition is being experienced by the U.S. natal Neptune at 22 degrees Virgo, when the transiting Neptune reaches 22 degrees Pisces. Since Neptune oppositions take approximately 165 years to occur, the United States has only experienced a Neptune return sequence once before. The last time this occurred was on January 4, 1859. The first Neptune opposition occurred just before the Civil War. Interesting coincidence, isn't it? In 2021 and 2022, the U.S. natal chart is experiencing a series of Neptune oppositions for the second time in history. They will occur twice in 2021, on May 1st and August 21st, and twice in 2022, March 1st and within 14 minutes on December 3rd. It may seem like an amazing coincidence that two such significant transits by the two most outer planets are happening so close to each other. Actually, there is a cosmic dance going on between Neptune and Pluto. There is a synchronization of their orbits. For every 2 revolutions of Pluto, there are 3 revolutions of Neptune, and this pattern has existed for billions of years. Now let's take a look at Neptune in more detail. The Neptune opposition, illustrated by this biwheel, shows the U.S. natal chart in the center, with the Neptune transit chart on the outside. The U.S. Neptune in the Sibly chart falls in the 9th house. In a mundane chart, the 9th house deals with the judicial system, the law, the Supreme Court, foreign affairs, borders and immigration, interstate commerce, international trade, universities, political propaganda, and social change. When the transiting Neptune is in a challenging position, such as an opposition, it represents confusion and deception in these areas. With the 3rd house tools of communications and media, the opposing Neptune has spread misinformation and outright deception regarding the areas that the 9th house represents. Don't forget that K-12 education is also part of the 3rd house, and look at what is happening across the country with school boards and CRT. Many Americans have lost faith in their own government. They feel like their country is no longer recognizable. Eclipses are major forecasters of political events. Let's take a look at the eclipses happening in 2022. Eclipses occur in pairs, one at the new moon and the other at the full moon. While all eclipses occur on a new moon or a full moon, not all new moons or full moons are eclipses. There will be 4 eclipses in 2022. This is not an unusual number. Anywhere from 4 to 6 eclipses will occur in a typical year. For 2022, both new moon eclipses will be in Scorpio, and the full moon eclipses will be in Taurus. In looking at the 4 eclipses for this year, one particular eclipse stands out. That eclipse is on November 8th. Let's discuss why. This year, Election Day falls on a lunar eclipse. Not only are they the same day, but the November 8th eclipse occurs at 6:02 a.m. and the Election Day chart and the first polls open at 6 a.m. So essentially, the eclipse chart is the election chart for the country. Before we look at the impact of the eclipse specifically on the U.S. natal chart, let's take a minute to look at the eclipse chart more broadly. The eclipse has the Sun in Scorpio in the 1st house and the opposing full moon in Taurus in the 7th house. The 1st house represents the people of the nation, while the 7th house represents our relationships with foreign governments, our partners, so to speak. The phrase that immediately pops into my mind when I look at this chart says, "As goes America, so goes the world." The world is counting on America to lead the way out of all these issues. That is our role and our destiny. The November 2022 midterm election is one of the most significant mundane events to occur in 2022, regardless of your political persuasions. Each party has positioned themselves as the guardians of democracy. Like the Civil War, friends and families are divided over issues that will determine the fate of our country, perchance the world. The stakes have never been higher. Now let's take a deeper look at the U.S. natal chart on election day. If we look at a bi-wheel with the U.S. natal chart in the middle, you can see the election day chart wrapped around it. The first thing you'll notice is that there is a stellium of transiting planets in Scorpio in the 11th house, and the 11th house represents the Congress. Directly opposing the Sun is the Moon in Taurus conjunct Uranus. The Moon is exalted in Taurus, so it is strong and comfortable in this sign. The Moon represents the emotional state of the people, but women in particular. Since Uranus is exactly conjunct the Moon and opposes the Sun on this full lunar eclipse, the people want a change in Congress. More specifically, in this case, the 5th house represents offspring, mothers fighting for their children. An election in Virginia unexpectedly switched political parties due to the teaching of CRT and how the school boards were ignoring the parents' concerns. The parents were also denounced as domestic terrorists by the Attorney General of the United States for protesting at school board meetings. The COVID-19 pandemic impacted the mental health, educational, and social development of a generation of children. Mandating experimental vaccines for children who had little to no risk of death from COVID has raised serious concerns in the minds of many parents. Taking that risk is like gambling with their young lives. Forcing children to wear masks all day was also a health risk, especially for children with disabilities and breathing difficulties. These two issues are bound to be a major concern to parents during the 2022 election cycle and will figure directly into the eclipse-driven outcome on Election Day. The lunar nodes indicate the karmic direction of the country. The North Node is in Taurus, which will push the country from a constant state of transformation towards more stability. Eclipses occur when the Sun and Moon are near the nodes, so this tends to give the eclipses more impact. Historically, this has not augured well for the outcome around that time, especially in Congress, which is represented by the 11th house, where the party in power will feel the brunt of the Scorpion South Node, which deals with past karma. But the trine and sextile to the nodes by the natal Sun will soften the impact to the president. I hope you've enjoyed this look at the impact of the outer planet transits and eclipses on the United States in this portion of the 2022 forecast. A more in-depth forecast using solar returns and the quarterly solstice and equinox charts will be presented in the next video.